NASCAR took all three series to Pocono Raceway this weekend, where Corey Heim dominated the truck race. We saw Cole Custer sneak away with one in the Xfinity Series race, and Ryan Blaney get away on a final restart to win the Cup race. Let's recap the weekend, starting with the Cup race. Both the 7 of Corey LaJoie and the 8 of Kyle Busch had to start in the back of the race for unapproved adjustments. Ty Gibbs sat on the pole, but he didn't stay there very long. I shouldn't say that. He did stay out front for part of the first stage, but he didn't stay in the race for the entire time. He ended up having a blown engine, finishing 27th. Noah Gragson spun in the first stage, pounding the wall and ending his race. Martin Truex Jr. would go on to win stage 1. Ross Chastain made contact with the wall pretty hard partway through stage 2, and it would be Denny Hamlin that ended up getting the second stage win. Todd Gilliland blew a brake rotor at the start-finish line and crashed hard in turn 1 at the beginning of stage 3. Everyone came to pit road for fuel and tires, and Kyle Larson was the first car off pit road after that particular caution, but he, along with another really fast Hendrick car, Chase Elliott, Ty Gibbs, the pole sitter, and Daniel Suarez, all were busted for speeding in Section 7 and had to go to the back of the field. On the next restart, as the cars fan out, the 8 of Kyle Busch throws a big block on Corey LaJoie, and as Corey works his way back to the inside of Kyle, going into turn 1, he says Kyle Busch came across his nose and spun himself out, but from my point of view, it sure looked like the 7 went to duck back in line and turned the 8 down into turn 1, collecting several cars in that particular incident. As they restarted, it wasn't long before we saw the 71 of Zane Smith and the 42 of John Hunter Nemechek crash together down off of turn 1, and that brought out another caution. Ty Gibbs ended up blowing a motor, laying down a bunch of fluid on the racetrack, which is what the final caution of the day came out for. And once they got restarted, nothing stood between Ryan Blaney and the checkered flag, as he was able to outlast Denny Hamlin for the victory in Pocono. In the Xfinity Series race, we saw more cautions, to a total of 8 for 30 laps, and we saw Justin Allgaier lead most of the race with 30 laps led. Cole Custer also stayed out front quite a bit, leading 25 laps, and we saw William Byron up there fairly often as well. And correct me if I'm wrong, I believe he had a speeding penalty at one point during that race, had to go to the back, and ended up working his way back up toward the front. I think that took place.
He had a flat tire.
A flat tire, okay.
Flat
tire then.
Yeah.
I knew that he had an issue of some sort to where he ended up going toward the back.
I believe Allgaier had a speeding penalty or something because he had to go to the back too.
Okay.
That's probably why he didn't dominate as much as the race as he could have.
That makes sense then.
And not at the end of the race, he was on late restarts. He had older tires because he had to have strategy to get back up front.
On the final restart, regardless, it was Cole Custer that was able to sneak out front and cruise his way onto the victory after a great restart, making a move on Justin Allgaier off the corner there. Allgaier ends up finishing second, William Byron third, Sheldon Creed fourth, Taylor Gray finishes fifth, AJ Allmendinger ends up coming home sixth, followed by Austin Hill, Parker Klickerman, Sammy Smith, and Sam Mayer rounding out the top 10. Chandler Smith and Sam Mayer did have a few words to exchange after the race. We saw Mayer end up spinning out SVG. Apparently, there must have been some sort of caution between he and Chandler Smith throughout that race as well, because I didn't see the incident, but Chandler Smith sure seemed to be upset with Sam Mayer.
Yeah, I don't think he fully wrecked Chandler Smith, but I think he probably booted him out of the way or made contact there.
That makes sense. That sounds like Sam. But that was pretty much what we saw from the Xfinity Series race. The point standings are going to look like this after the conclusion of that race. Cole Custer being point leader, followed by Justin Allgaier, Chandler Smith, Austin Hill, and AJ Allmendinger rounding out the top 5.
All right, in the truck series, Corey Heim dominated today, leading 55 laps. He won both stages and survived a late rain delay restart and had enough fuel to win the day. Christian Eckes is the points leader still. Corey Heim second. Nick Sanchez third. Ty Majeski fourth, and Raj Caruth fifth.
And that's going to round out your recap from Pocono. All right, as we said, Ryan Blaney ends up winning the Cup Series race. Not really somebody that I had penciled in as a threat to win today. Did you feel like he was going to be somebody that you thought was going to be strong?
I was all Joe Gibbs
Yeah.
versus everybody else today. So
I feel like the Toyotas were just in general teams that jumped off the page coming into the race. Some team that you thought was going to be dominant, team that you thought was going to be up front a lot. And
for the most part, they were.
They were for a
yeah.
lot, yeah. Ty Gibbs starting on the pole. He led a fair amount. Martin Truex Jr. led a fair amount. Denny Hamlin led a fair amount. But they just couldn't quite get it done at the end. There were several different issues. Obviously, we talked about Ty Gibbs blowing the motor, blowing that chocolate milk out the tailpipes, as they kept referring to on the broadcast. Yeah, that didn't look like that was anything that I'd want to drink at all, that oil and water mixture. But Blaney wasn't really somebody that I had on my radar. And I don't know, just the flat racetrack, the big racetrack, where a lot of speed is important, didn't seem like that was going to be a Penske car kind of day. But he kept hanging around. Joey Logano finished 5th. I mean, he ran pretty strong today as well. And Chris Buescher led for a little while up there also in another Ford. So the Fords weren't cars that I really anticipated being fast. Like I said, it was going to be all Toyota, but that just ended up being what ended up prevailing on the day. And now I'm kind of interested as to the fact that Indianapolis next week is a large flat racetrack. How much of a threat is Ryan Blaney or a Joey Logano going to be next week at racetracks like that? Plus, you've got a Brad Keselowski who also ran strong today with Chris Buescher. I'm curious to see what the Fords are going to end up doing next week based on their performance this week. I think that while Pocono doesn't race like an oval, it certainly has some similarities between it and Indianapolis as well. So I'll be interested to see how that plays out next week. Denny Hamlin just didn't have enough time to get there, basically. Yeah. I think he was ultimately faster. He had the ability to compete with the 12 for sure. It certainly seemed like somebody that was going to be a threat to win, which was why I picked him this week, and he ended up finishing 2nd. I couldn't be happier with Ryan Blaney winning the race and Denny Hamlin 2nd. It's even funnier that your pick, Ty Gibbs, ended up blowing a motor and finishing 27th. The hack Alex Bowman ends up bringing it home in 3rd, backing up that win last week in Chicago. He's been running well, but top 5s really haven't been his thing. At least, I shouldn't say that. I haven't looked at the stats, but just from an eye perspective of knowing that he runs well, runs top 10, but doesn't quite get in that top 5 bracket, this seems like a step forward to him. How concerned are you, I shouldn't say concerned, but anticipatory are you of Alex Bowman being somebody that's going to start running pretty well here recently, competing for wins and possibly even getting more? Do you think that Bowman's going to get any more wins this season?
I mean, he's backing up, I guess. Backs into one or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's just 2 good weeks for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't feel like you need more of a
Well, if you want
run,
to go, if you want to go with the amount of weeks in a row, I mean, Denny Hamlin, this is the first time he's finished this well in a month.
Yeah.
But he's somebody that every week you think he's going to be fast and he's going to finish up near the front. So I think that Alex Bowman's certainly getting close to that same category of somebody that he's not in the Larson, Hamlin, those two stand head and shoulders above the rest.
Yeah.
But, you know, you always think that Ryan Blaney's going to be fast. Joey Logano looks like he might be starting to turn that corner a little bit. Tyler Reddick seems to be competitive. Brad Keselowski seems to be competitive. Truex is up there. Elliott's up there. Christopher Bell, he finished 12th today, which is kind of a down day for him compared to what he's been having. But Bell's been up there recently. Guys like that are ones that you think that are going to be near the front often. I feel like Bowman's in that second tier of guys that is going to be in the top 10 and is going to be a threat to be a name you notice throughout the day.
I can agree with that. Yeah.
Denny is a car that I really thought would be a big-time threat today, and he certainly was. And as we talked about Kyle Larson being the other side of that coin of them two being in the top category of guys that are threats to win every week, Larson didn't really strike me as somebody that I thought was going to win the race today. I mean, I know that he was up front a little bit, and I know that speeding penalty put him back in the field, but I just didn't really feel like, oh yeah, I think this could be a Kyle Larson kind of day.
Yeah.
It felt like it was going to be Denny Hamlin, or you were going to get somebody on strategy. This felt like those were your two options. Maybe Ty Gibbs if he was able to stay up front as well.
I think the biggest thing that won Ryan Blaney the race was strategy, considering he flipped the second stage, got ahead of, because Hamlin stayed out in one stage. So I think a lot of that's what help Blaney stay in front. It was hard to pass. The arrow blocking, all that stuff. It took Hamlin so long to get around Bowman that it just left him no time at the end to
Right.
chase down Blaney.
Yeah, just to reinforce what you said, that was what was brought out on the broadcast by Steve Letarte. It brought it to my attention that at the end of the stage, 2 laps to go, pit road closes when the leader crosses the line with 2 laps to go. Ryan Blaney made his pit stop prior to the end of the stage before pit road closed, and then Denny Hamlin, like you said, stayed out, won the stage, got the stage points, got the playoff points, and then came down pit road and pitted, and that's what put Ryan Blaney ahead of him on the racetrack. And just exactly what you said, so hard to pass today. Aerodynamics such a huge part of these races each and every week, and especially at a racetrack like Pocono where it's wide and it's long. Certainly just one of those situations where track position is huge, matters a whole lot, and it certainly did today. That's why you saw guys that went to the back have a lot of difficulty making it back through the field. There were certainly times, like you pointed out, when Chase Elliott went to the back, he had no problem coming back at the front at one point.
I feel like he's the only car. I mean, obviously, I Chase Elliott fan, but I mean, he seemed like the only car that could pass regularly coming through the field. So
fast cars go fast.
Yeah.
And his car was certainly a standout one today, and that certainly makes passing easier, but at the same point, it was coming at a premium today, for sure. I really don't have a whole lot of thoughts on the race itself. It was one of those that Pocono almost always plays out like a road course. And the reason is fuel strategy comes into it. You know that it's going to. And even when you got that final caution for fluid on the racetrack, which kind of leveled everybody's strategy out, your bed was already made. And because of the fact that it's so hard to pass aerodynamically here, it sets up much like a road course to where you only have certain passing zones.
Yeah.
And restarts are really your only opportunity to pass at Pocono. And that's unfortunate, but that's the way that it is. It just seems like there's a lot of similarities to how you would race at Sonoma or Watkins Glen or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I believe Blaney only took 2 tires on his final stop. So, I mean, there wasn't much tire wear. They showed, and I don't remember whose tire it was. It showed a little bit of cording.
I think it was Christopher Bell's. I saw that, but go ahead.
But he was still running same speeds with.
Yeah.
At that point, I mean, obviously, probably wasn't shortly after that, but up until he hit the cords, he was still running pace.
I don't know how you feel about this one, but even when I was watching NASCAR in what I consider to be the heyday of my fandom, Pocono was always at the bottom of the list of tracks that I wanted to watch races at. I always felt like at Pocono, it was always the same. Nothing really exciting happened. Just long, big straightaways. It's basically just 3 drag strips, and you make a turn at the end of them. I mean, it's certainly very technical, and I definitely get that, but I was never entertained by Pocono. Even when I was a kid growing up and was just absolutely obsessed with the sport, that was the race I had no problem going swimming that afternoon rather than watching the race. It just wasn't anything that really entertained me. How did you feel about it? Was it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. For some reason, I like the idea of Pocono, that you would think something irregular would be good racing. I don't know if it's the cars now or what, but it just seems like you could be doing something else and just kind of keep an eye on it.
Yeah.
You're not. Once things get spread out, it's like, oh, maybe they'll have like one fight here or there or something. Then it's just follow the leader pretty much.
Yeah, it's restarts and pit stops are the only things that you're watching at Pocono. And that's unfortunate that, I mean, we've only get one track in Pennsylvania, and that's the one. Certainly, if we had something closer to here, I'd be more interested in going. But the fact that, that's the home state track is Pocono, never wanted to associate myself with that one. And I think that, from what I understand, Pocono is an independently owned track. It's the only one on the schedule that I'm aware of other than, like, the Chicago Street Course. And it sounds like they do a great job with the way that they run that business as far as hospitality to the fans and treating everyone well. I heard from the racetrack that there was a big rainstorm this morning, and that caused some issues with parking and the cost of parking, getting people in their particular spots. And it sounded like, from what I read on Twitter, that Pocono was trying to give people back the money that they paid for parking because it was so inconvenient for them. So it sounds like they were at least treating their fans pretty well and the people that showed up at the racetrack. So I hate to give them a hard time because of that, but just the track itself, the racing that's put on there, I in any era, this is not a next-gen car issue for me at Pocono. This is just a Pocono Raceway issue for me. And don't get me wrong, the next-gen race car has a lot of flaws. Like you just said, with the aerodynamics, the fact your tires don't wear, the fact that you got 5 gears to get around this place. Yeah, I'm just out on...
It's not really the 5 gears. It's the shortness between gears that shift up and down. And
that's my point. Yeah, that if if you're hitting 5th gear on the straightaway and you got to drop down to 4th, you're never bogging down in that high gear. And hey, more horsepower would help you with that issue as well. So they're already going fast enough at Pocono. I understand that, maybe this is a track that you could argue they don't need to be hitting the 800 horsepower speeds that you could be hitting at that point. But at the same time, like the amount of drag on these race cars is so pathetic that you can't be watching racing like that and actually be entertained. I don't see how you can be. This is definitely an at the track experience type race.
Yeah,
it's got to be. Some other guys that had good days. William Byron ended up finishing 4th. Tyler Reddick ended up finishing 6th. Brad Keselowski 7th. Chase Elliott, even after that speeding penalty, finished 9th. I guess I didn't realize that he came all the way back up through there. Bubba Wallace, who's trying to make the playoffs, trying to have a good day, trying to put points in between him and the cut line, finished 10th. Good day for him. Well, let's talk about Bubba for a second because of the fact that he got penalized this week. $50,000. Fair, not fair? What do you think?
Considering the precedents before it, it just didn't seem like it was fair.
Not enough.
Huh?
Not enough money?
I don't think he should have been penalized at all.
No, I agree with you. I said it last week that I could see a fine but like a points penalty would be ridiculous, and I still stand by that. And I can still agree with the fine, but $50,000 is a lot of money to fine for what took place there. I don't know.
I mean, Martin Truex Jr. was bouncing off of Larson and Hamlin and at Richmond. The only time I saw they had a fine was Suarez, but he was doing it on pit road.
Yeah, that's a whole different animal.
A whole different animal. And then, Chase Elliott, evidently his wasn't egregious last week too, but...
Have you ever seen video of it? Did you see what happened between him and Suarez after the event? Like, did you see?
Yeah.
Was it? Okay. I didn't see the video.
Yeah, he after he spun out and finished the race, Chase caught up to Suarez and just kind of did a slide swipe. Didn't bash him into a wall or nothing. They just I don't know, they may have scuffed tires at the most. And then Chase got ahead and kind of brake checked him a little bit. And
so threw a little temper tantrum, basically.
Yeah. Of course, Suarez talked about the brake pressure when Chase knocked him and Keselowski out of the way.
Yeah.
Turn 11, I believe, 11 out of 12. I've seen the replay from Chase moving the other two out of the way, but before that, Keselowski hit the wall and checked them two up. So, to me, maybe Chase didn't realize how checked up they were, because Chase may have still been around the corner when didn't see Keselowski into the wall and them checking up. So but of course I'm gonna
defend your driver.
My driver.
You got to
stand
in there and take those punches. I've been doing it as a Joey Logano fan for a long time now.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to say that Chase was in the wrong there, and he should have been penalized and probably suspended, honestly.
Yeah.
But no, I don't think there should have been anything at all for what Chase Elliott did. You could say that it was more egregious what Bubba did, at least by how you're describing it. Again, I didn't actually see the post-race contact there.
What NASCAR said when you saw Alex Bowman's A-car cam, it knocked the wheel out of his hand when he hit the wall and stuff and whatnot. But, it's not like they're going racing speeds anymore and stuff. But
I'm fine with the fine. I'm fine with him getting a talking to and all that, Bubba. But $50,000 just seems like a lot. I just feel like you could be doing something different. I don't know. Tell him that he's not allowed to wear a cool shirt. next race and make him suffer a little bit. I don't know. It just seems like that was an excessive fine for what took place there. I know that people are all up in arms about it on Twitter. Sure, was it worse than Chase Elliott's deal? Yeah. Was it $50,000 bad? No. That's my opinion on that. But Bubba gave an interview this week to, I think it was Bob Pockers that I saw post it, that talked about, this isn't really who he is. When Bubba Wallace came into this sport, I was rooting for him. I thought that he was a cool guy. He's friends with Ryan Blaney, whose career I was following. He drove at Roush for a while, and I was a big fan of Roush at that particular time. Wanted to see him successful. He drove the 43 for a little while. But everything that he ends up doing and getting involved in seems to be, well, people just hate me. And then it goes on to he has to have a little temper tantrum every time something doesn't go his way. And that's what's driving me away from the fandom of Bubba Wallace. And for him to say that, well, this is not who I really am, every incident that he gets in, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
He flips out about something. He'll either talk about himself in such a negative way. And I know that I understand the pressure that I don't understand the pressure, but I understand the concept of the pressure that he's under. He's always right there on the cut line. And ever since Tyler Reddick showed up in that 45 car, he's always been the second banana. It's always been somebody that has been outperformed by his teammate. That's got to feel terrible, especially if you're the flagship car of that team.
Yeah.
I get all that. But the problem is him saying that this isn't really who I am. This is exactly who you are.
Yeah.
And it's just like Ty Gibbs when he was on Dale Jr.'s show talking about, wrecking people and flipping people off and constantly cursing people out over the radio and in person. It's like, that's not who I really am. Well, I see you do it every week. And even when Christopher Bell won the Coke 600 when it was rain short, and there was a video of him going up into Chris's bus and cussing like crazy. And he's talking about being a Christian and that he gets us a sponsor on his car and stuff like that. And saying, well, that's not who I really am. That's exactly who you really are, Ty. That's exactly who you really are, Bubba. I mean, don't try to tell me that this isn't who you really are. I can see it. It's the pressure-packed moments that kind of stuff comes out, and that's exactly what's happening with these guys. So telling me that that's not who I really am, that'd be like me saying, oh, I watch racing every week, but I'm not really a race fan. That's not that's absolutely who I am. I'm frustrated with the state of the sport right now, but I still am very much a fan of what's going on. I would much rather be watching NASCAR than watching golf on Sunday, that's for sure. But yeah, that part of that interview kind of rubbed me the wrong way, and him saying that. Noah Gragson, we talked about him pounding the wall. He was last place finisher today. I did hear a comment that said that he stated that Stewart-Haas Racing actually supports him and Legacy did not. I did not read into those comments anymore to find out what exactly he was saying beyond that, but it certainly seems to be a part of the uptick in performance because SHR has not been good, and he's been a standout driver there in his first year. And I think that Noah's one of those guys that just needs people to believe in him. And if he feels like he's got some support behind him, he is head down and going. And I think that with his announcement that he's going to Front Row Motorsports, Dale Jr., I think, called it Furniture Row earlier this week, and I can't get that out of my head. I used to get them confused, and I had it straightened out when Furniture Row went away. But yet once he said that, it's been back in my head at that point. Yes, going to Front Row Motorsports, staying in the Ford camp. They didn't say what car he was going to be.
I was going to ask you. I just know that.
Yeah, they haven't. They made it very clear that he was going to Front Row, but they never gave a car number, never gave anything. I think that that's going to be a good move for him. With SHR going away, I think that that's a good landing spot. I mean, that team is going pretty well. Todd Gilliland's running well. Michael McDowell has not run too bad. And we know that he's probably a lame duck anyways with the fact that he's moving on, Michael McDowell moving on. Yeah. So he's probably not getting 100% of his resources when he goes to the racetrack. So I would expect a little downtick in performance from him. I think that that's going to be interesting. There's still, as it was pointed out, still one unknown Stewart-Haas charter somewhere that's got to land somewhere. And nobody's claimed it yet. So I don't know if that's going to Front Row. I don't know if it's going to 2311. I don't know where it's going. But I know that a lot of people are talking about.
Yeah, there's still 2 charters that are being sold off yet, right?
2 of them?
Because I think Front Row is only the one that's got one. Because technically Front Row had 2 opening spots. Noah Gregson's filling 1, and they have the new charter.
Okay.
Or whether Noah goes in the new charter and so on.
Yeah.
It's the 34. That's yet to be determined. of course, Haas is keeping one of those.
Yep.
So, but the rumor was Trackhouse in 2311.
Yeah.
But Denny's not doing nothing until they get the charter agreement done.
Understandable.
And from what I've read and stuff, man, it's looking read or seen on you. But you sent me that video on Instagram there. So it's looking rough for an agreement as of right now. So
I feel like just diverging off this topic for a second. The state of NASCAR is literally the state of the United States government.
Yeah.
And it's just, there's corruption at the top and money to be made, and that's what we're trying to do. And that's what it feels like this sport is doing with the France family running the sport. I wouldn't say that they're running it into the ground per se, but they're certainly taking the largest portion of the profit for themselves. And just like all these politicians are invested in these stocks and then make laws that make those stocks go up, NASCAR buys these tracks and then schedules those tracks to be on the circuit. And there's just a lot of issues that I have with that. We need a wealthy, independent businessman to come over and fight the power here at NASCAR and see what we can make happen.
Make NASCAR great again.
You make NASCAR great again. I'll get behind that one. We'll get some hats made. Anyways, kind of back onto the silly season stuff. The announcement also came that Rodney Childers is going to be at Spire, crew chiefing the number 7 car. Jeff Gluck is the only person that I heard say he was going to be Corey LaJoie's crew chief.
Yeah.
Everything else said that he was going to be crew chiefing the 7 car.
Yeah.
And Corey LaJoie's name was never mentioned. I don't know what the state is with Corey right there. I don't know if he's going to be in that car next year. I don't know where his contract's at. I don't know how that works.
I understood he had like a year on a contract yet. So
it's just a piece of paper. It can go away at any time.
It seems like contracts don't mean a whole lot in sports.
No,
anymore,
not at all.
There's always a clause of the way out. Somehow.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's the thing. Like, with as much as Corey struggled, he wrecks every week. You see the 7 car around he's the new Quinn Huff. He's the new Cody Ware. Like you can count on Corey LaJoie for a caution every week now. And I don't know. It's just I can't see him being. I know he's done a lot for that team to get him to this point, but I feel like other teammates are now exceeding his performance. Yeah. And he's causing problems every week, especially like what we saw today with Kyle Busch. I don't know why he decided to run into Kyle like that and just completely turn him.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just I would not be surprised if Corey's not in that 7 car next year. I don't really know that I have anything else from this race or from this week that we need to discuss. Do you?
I can't think of anything right now.
As soon as we stop recording, we'll think about it all. Let's hit the standings again real quick. Chase Elliott, with his solid finish today and the amount of stage points that he earns, he takes a 3-point lead over Kyle Larson in the standings, followed by Tyler Reddick, Denny Hamlin, and William Byron is going to round out the top 5. Once we get to this Olympic break, we're going to kind of dive into the playoffs and that situation a little bit, maybe try to give as much of an update as we can on charters and break that down as best we can, and maybe even put together a big board of where drivers are right now and where they're going to go next year. This is all stuff that I'm talking about right now. We haven't discussed this at all yet.
A silly season update.
Yeah, something like that. So if you're wondering why we're not getting into the playoff debate yet, that's basically it, because we're going to try to recap that a little while in these break weeks coming up. Anything else you want to talk about from this weekend?
That's all I got.
That's all I got from Pocono too. We appreciate everybody that's watching. We see the numbers growing, and we're very much appreciative of that. We thank you guys for supporting us. Make sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, as well as right here on YouTube. And we'll see you again next week after Indianapolis.